when you are doing all things possible to
Mhm.
make sure that the school is running smoothly, all things possible to make sure that students are getting what they need, but because you're not doing it in the way um, the administrator or those overseers of the educational system don't feel like it should be going, because it's like, how dare you uplift, how dare you um, do your best to break this prison to pipeline
Right.
well working machine that we have
Mhm.
going on. And so then you continue to see like 99% of black teachers and leaders and students discover systematic corruption. Like
Mhm.
that's something and you mentioned that in your chapter. This is like this is a real thing that's happening. We see the poorest sections of the state being mishandled, and to see that when I read your chapter and just to see that in print, it's like in the back of my mind, I knew it was happening. But
Mhm.
when you read it again in print, when
Right.
you read it, when it's there in black and white,
Mhm.
it brings you to this space, this haunting space, right? This haunting
Yeah.
space that makes you want continue to wonder, like, why do leaders take resources away from those who merit their younger selves? Like, you've
Absolutely.
been there, you've been here once
Right.
before. How can you now display the same type of hurt or create the same violent spaces that
Mhm.
you have overcome? How
Mhm.
can you transfer that on to students now? And so I would like to just hear a little bit of how could we historically, how do you feel like we can move educators
Right.
from that, from that historical marginalized group of adults that continue to push students further
Right.
into being marginalized?
You know what, and that goes to speak for that detoxing of
Hmm.
that culture that has been indoctrinated, that assimilation that we grew up with. And some of us, it was harsher than others. um I feel that you don't know and can't see what you don't recognize.
Hmm.
So you have to know what systemic racism is first before you can shake it off, before you
Hmm.
can retrain your mind for things that you say and how you interact with students, especially. So, one thing I think definitely needs to be done, and it can start at our HBCUs and our pre service programs,
Hmm.
stop the assimilation, because in some of the HPCUs they are still using the same tools that oppress us on the outside and the inside. They is still that pride, but you got to dismantle your systems as well, right? And so one of the things that come to mind is qualifications for certain to enter into certain groups with that are unique to our community. I will put it that way.
Okay. Okay.
And in those processes, the process of acquiring applications to certain groups within our community, one thing is you gotta produce a license and show where you live.
Mm.
And if you're over a certain age and you're living with your parents, like many older young adults do, um, why is that? Or that could be a strike against you, or it's questioned on
Mm.
why do you think I'm staying at home with my parents? I'm staying at home with my parents because A, I can't afford to go anywhere else. And why is that a negative? It's little things, it's little nuances like that that we have brought over.
Hmm.
You marching for no identification at voter registration, but yet to get in your organization, you're telling me if my address is not here for so many months, blah, 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 I can't join your organization.
Exactly.
Make it make sense.
Yep. And then the piggyback, right? And then the piggyback off of that, it makes you think about how we force our kids out of the home so early. Like,
Yeah.
we have this: you're 18, you got to get a job, you got to be either get a job, go to school, or you got to get out of here, right?
Yes, my
But
grandma
then
was
look
married
at,
at 14.
but then when we look at our counterparts, and
Mhm.
we see that they're staying in the home with their parents well into their 30s.
Oh, when it moved
And, you know,
yesterday.
until they're able to sustain enough income to buy their first home,
Yep.
or until they're married. Like other cultures build up their youth, or their children, so that they can thrive once they leave. You know,
Absolutely.
however, we have this mindset that once
You
you hit a
for
certain
them.
age, you on your own. I'm no longer responsible for you. And
Right.
it shouldn't be about the responsibility for you.
Mhm.
It should be until you're able to stand on your feet,
Right. Right.
and not feel cut down at the knees.
Right.
If there's room here, I grew up in a household where, let me tell you, everybody stayed in my mom and dad's house. Like, my house was the house.
Mhm.
I don't know what family member did not come stay. And my mother was always the one to say, listen, if you could find a spot, you could cop a spot. You know. And so, but that was when there was a village.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
when we had the real thick woven of the wisdom and the matriarchs in the family, and we Sunday dinners, and we had
Right.
all those things. We had that community
Mhm.
where love was expected. And
Mhm.
we live right now so much in a time where there's so much hate, so much, like, we have family members not talking to one another. We
Mhm.
have, we have aunts dropping their kids off to school, but won't even go, like, next door to get the cousins and say, come on, we all going to school. I know your mother or your dad left for work already. So it's like, if we don't if
Right.
we don't pull each other up, it's so easy for
Mhm.
others to drive a wedge
Mhm.
further
Right.
between us. It's so easy to keep us down if we don't ourselves continue to bring back that village and
Mhm.
continue to lift one another up. But
Mhm.
we're coming to our brag station, right? We coming to our brag corner right now, because I just need to let you brag on yourself, because you have created two powerful frameworks, and I need them to know about these frameworks, because these are the tools that's going to move you from all right to good, and from good to exceptional. And so I want you to talk about your two frameworks. I want you to talk about the serve and the care frameworks.
Mhm.
And don't give too much away, because I want them to follow you. I want them to go to
Right.
your
Right.
website. But I do want you to give them a tease. I want you to give them a tease about what it is,
Right.
and how it can help.
Absolutely. So serve is really that inward work you have to do before you start going out and doing the work on the outside and the advocacy first. So the serve framework, and you'll have to buy the book to find out what those letters stand for. But it allows you to get yourself in a place internally and mentally to know who you are as a person. And when I say who you are, I mean who you are in this fight. What's your position? And how do you come across to others? Not how others see you, but what is your intentionality in the fight? Because your position is not going to be the same as Xenia's, as Dr. Carrie's, as somebody else, because that's not your gift. But find where your niche is. And the only way you can do that is having your quiet reflection time. And sometimes what's revealed when you're going through this serve method, you may not like,
Hmm.
right? So it may be something that's total counterintuitive to what you ever thought you were going to do or to be. And I think that that's very important. Is getting that time and finding out internally what you need to do and what you need to let go of in order to move forward. Because like Erica, you bag lady, you be trying to bring everything with you, and you're gonna break your back trying to bring everything that is not meant for you to bring. Some things sometimes we are in a moment or a chapter in our life, and you have to end the chapter. Like that's it. No more. That's what you were supposed to do for that time. And it's time to No
Close
more.
the
Go on
door.
to the next thing. So you need to end the chapter, close the book, put it back on the shelf, whatever you need to do. The end of the episode. Now, sometimes it's not even the end of the episode. It is the what is not the season finale, but they're taking it off the air. It's the end. So, and be okay with that, because I see sometimes we will stay in relationships. We will stay in a relationship. Can be a romantic relationship. It can be a relationship with a job, and you're past the time you were supposed to be there. I had a mentor tell me when I became dean of students, you are to sit in this seat. And I had no idea why he would tell me this. I think I had just got the seat. He was like, no more than 3 years, 36 months. I was like, Wayne, what are you saying? And he's like,
Like, you know something I don't know? Like, what's going on here?
so, but now that I reflect back on that and I can remember him telling me that, I see why. He was like, because once that's what you're so smart and you're so intuitive. Whatever you're going to do in this position, whatever you've been put here to do, it's going to be done in that time, and it's time for you to move on. Don't get stuck. Don't get pigeonholed into being everyone's mouthpiece, which was going to start happening. I was going to start being the fall guy for every expulsion, every arrest, and he could see that on the wall. So sometimes you do have to listen and make sure that those things, those comfort areas, sometimes it's time for the eagle let the leave the nest, and we have to make the nest uncomfortable.
Right.
And you have to listen to those signs, which is what I'm working with my mentee right now. I told her last year, go. She didn't listen to me. What are we doing this year? We're doing this. So it's like, I always said, I'm not going to say this while you hurting right now. But didn't I tell you last year?
Like, I'm not going to say I told you so.
I'm
I
not
just
going
want you
to
to reflect on what I
right,
told you, right?
right. No,
It's so, and it's so important that you say that, because I want the audience to understand and know, like, there's that saying where it says everyone enters your space for a reason and a season. It is
yeah,
so true. It is so
it is.
true. You have to learn to stop opening or reopening doors that were meant to stay shut. It is
Right.
okay. You have to learn to
And
be
we do that in the black community.
uncomfortable.
Right. We do that in the black community so much because you and I,
Mhm.
are descendants of boomers. Girl, you better
Mhm.
get that good job, get the watch, you got some benefits, find you a good man, you got a good job, y'all be quiet, keep your head down, get the 20 acres, 40 acres, and whatever. And
Mhm.
I'm sitting here going, that is not the case. I mean, and I use my marriage. I love my first husband. I will do anything for him to this day. Very amicable. But we did what we were supposed to do.
Mhm.
And if I would have allowed the church to then make me stay somewhere I had outgrown, I would not be doing the work that I'm doing now.
Mhm.
But I did exactly what the Lord told me to do. I got married. I had children. I raised them in the way they should go. That was the end of that. And we don't look, they want to take the Bible from all them 100 years ago, bring it here and say this. Well, those people had 15 wives and 9 concubines. People were dying
That's the
at
part
age.
they leave out.
I
They
know.
they leave out that part. It's like, okay, so what? Where's the co-wife that's supposed to split this? Because when he's over here irking these nerves, and when he's over here
That part.
doing all the
That
narcissistic
part.
thing, I put me on the bench. Tap
What
somebody
is
else
trying to
in, coach.
say?
Tap somebody
Exactly.
else in, coach. Because I like, this is my exit strategy. I need to go somewhere else. It's time for me to reset, revamp, relaunch.
Right.
Like, I have to make sure that I'm taking care of all of this home so I can receive the message that the Lord is trying to send me. And I don't think he's saying that I need to be in this space of misery. So now, listeners, do not take it misconstrued. We are not telling you to leave your church
We are
or leave
not.
your husband.
Absolutely.
We are
No,
not telling
we
you
are
that.
not.
What we're saying is you need to make an executive decision that allows you to be in a space of spiritual healing, mental healing, and physical healing, whatever that looks like to you.
And what you're called to do. Because
Exactly.
your calling isn't everybody's calling. And I understood the assignment. I knew what I had to do. That's why people like, well, you guys are so amicable. It did not have to, because I'm walking in truth. I'm in the will. That's what I'm supposed to be doing. Is when you're getting out of the will for selfish reasons. I knew
Mm-hmm.
I needed to be in the area that I'm in. I knew I needed to be here to do the work that I'm doing, and that's what I'm going to do, because I know it's that pull, and it's hard to explain that when you have that pull to do something internally, you can't get any peace or any rest until you get right and in alignment. And that's something that, doing the serve, if you do it and you do it correctly, you'll get that clarity that you need. But you have to let go of situations, relationships, might be geographical locations, places that you're not meant to be, to do what you're called to do. And then the care is, once you start interacting with others, what are you doing and what does that look like? And how do you communicate that with other people? You can't just walk up to people and say, well, you know what you're doing is wrong. And but that's not, and being antagonistic is never going to change anybody's viewpoint. Okay. You
Not at
can,
all.
right. It's all about relationships. And as Black people, we have always been a communal people. We just have to learn how to not be dysfunctionally communal. So communal means the things that you were saying, Xenia, a few minutes ago about, the aunt that's going to get the cousins, everybody piling up in the station wagon, and we all going to Dairy Queen. Now, my kids not going to come back with Dairy Queen and eat it in front of your kids. But
Exactly.
what we are doing, well, yeah, what we're doing is we're being very mindful of that. And what does that mean? Sometimes we have to put off, oh, success looks like I have my own house and my
Mm-hmm.
3 or 4 cars. Success means I don't need to have my relatives come stay with me, while they're down on their luck. Success means what it means for your family to drive,
Exactly.
to thrive. And that is not going to always be what is acceptable in a white supremacy structure. And that's where you have to remove that assimilation, right? You have
Mm-hmm.
to put that to the side, because you've been assimilated to believe that these are the way things are supposed to be. And a perception is not what reality is. We as a people, when we act in our own best interest and in communal efforts, whether it's gardening, whether it's putting our minds together to support a family, whatever we are doing, when we do it together, it comes out so much better than when we're trying to tear each other apart. And one thing we have to do is the jealousy and the gatekeeping. So scared that somebody might have a little bit more than I have. You
Mm-hmm.
know, um, just for instance, coming up to support you. That is what I'm supposed to do. I'm supposed to support my sister. Whether you're able to come and support me at the time or not, I know you will do what you can. But sometimes we do things and we don't do them from the heart. And I
Mm-hmm.
think that's what we have to get back to doing, and get back to actually caring about each other, truly caring about each other. That means, I hadn't seen Sister So and so in like a 2 or 3 days. Let me
Let
call and
me
check
reach
on
out.
her. Let me
Let me just reach
right.
out. Whether it's a text message or a call, and
Exactly.
and so it's important because that with everything that you're saying is so essential to right now,
Hmm.
because it's that lack of emotional intelligence, it's that lack of self understanding. And so until you do that self inventory to get to know what's deeply rooted in the reason and your reactions and the trauma that you experience, and heal from that, it's very difficult for you to have compassion, or or empathy for anyone else, because you still haven't had empathy for yourself. So it's very important to be able to do all those things. And that's why I love, well, that's why what I love about your chapter, because it takes you on this journey of you processing past traumas, mid
Hmm.
traumas,
Hmm.
current traumas, all of that, while still being able to do all things Dr.
Right.
Carrie, all things Dr. Young McWilliams. And it's also something that it's inspirational that gives someone else who may be going through, it's so vulnerable that it allows other people to say,
Yeah,
you know what, it's not just me, this is not all in my head. So when I
right.
think about your, even the title, like a journey of integrity and empowerment,
Mhm.
and so this is featured in the Triumph in the Trenches, Navigating Success,
Yeah,
the that Navigating Success for Black Professionals, Volume 2, Triumph in the Trenches. For our listeners and educators and administrators, anyone navigating systematic corruption and ethical dilemmas, share with us, why should they read your chapter? What will they gain from your chapter in your stories? I mean, I know I gave a little snippet, but I want to hear from the writer. I want to hear
I
from the
think right.
writer.
I think, and to let them know we're in all
Wait,
volumes.
yes,
So,
right?
but in volume two, I take you on a journey of this young girl from Mississippi who is going to break the cycle of teen pregnancy, break the cycle of being undereducated and not formally educated. And I was going to, and breaking the cycle of what the stereotype was for Black girls at that time. And what I will tell you is that I then find out that I was chosen to break that cycle because I was going to be placed in the next room where there was this wall that I had to learn how to scale. And that was
Mm,
that shadow network of political favors in a white workspace where I was going to be denied, even though I had the credentials, the qualifications, the experience to move up that wall and be on that top corner office floor, but was denied that. Now, my journey was different than my grandparents and my mother's. My journey now is to get in the workspace and make that better for people and make the school system better for students to have a better understanding of what they need to do. Because, like I tell kids now, I say, look, you need to have a profession and a trade. Okay. You may go to the doctor once in your life, but let me tell you, a cold winter, everybody's pipes are going to burst. So I say, so you need to have both, you know. So it's learning from your rearview mirror experience, so that other people will have a better um, outlook out their windshield. So, you know, I can have to be vulnerable. So one thing I had to learn to do during my time as an educator is I had to come to realization in my serve moment of how prideful I was and all knowing. Like I said it, I had the position, I knew what I was talking about. So I had to do two things. I had to fight and work on myself. And I think sometimes we feel like we've arrived, we know the answer, we got it on paper. Now let me fix everybody else. And that's not it. You have to know what you need to do for yourself. And you have to be able to fix yourself. And I'm telling you, some of the feedback I got from board members, and they would tell me, and when I say board, this is my life board, my mentors,
okay.
they would say, you know, you have to slow down. And I do want you to reflect. But then they wouldn't just tell me to reflect, they would tell me about pride. And that's what it really boiled down to.
Mm,
I had too much of it. And it wasn't like I'm proud as a Black person, but the pride of not being vulnerable,
got
the
it.
masking that we learn to do so well as
So
Black
often.
women, to keep
So
a smile on our face, to keep to be so articulate in spaces
often.
and say, oh yes, everything's all right. I had to learn not to be, to find that balance of being vulnerable and also keeping my cards close to my vest to protect myself. And that's a very tedious thing to learn how to do in a workspace, because if you start to overshare, which is also a form of trauma, when you start to
Mhm.
overshare to try to prove yourself, then that can be weaponized against you as being too vulnerable, telling too
Mhm.
much of your business. But I had to be able to show people that I'm willing and open to learning and being vulnerable from my past mistakes or mishaps to turning those into opportunities for success. And what does that look like? And speaking about it. But you have to speak about it to people who are ready to hear it. That's the other part. Because using it, saying it, and I think this is something we struggle with, saying it to people who don't mean us any good, as my grandma used to say, is not going to help. It's just going to be weaponized and used against you. So you have to also have that spirit of discernment of who you're talking to and what that purpose is. Because part of our trauma that we deal with as a people is oversharing and trying to prove your point.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes we get to talking so much until that is used against you. And you
We
don't
talk
want to
ourselves out of things. We talk ourselves out of things, or into, if either we're talking ourselves out of something or we talking ourselves into something.
exactly.
So it's finding that balance. Listen, we'll get here and we'll be on here for forever. So I'm gonna have to bring you back for a part two. But before I let you go, I have to ask the signature question. What does being a trauma blocker mean to you?
Wow, that's a good one. A trauma blocker to me means I get rid of the negative thoughts before they come into my mind. So the blocking starts within my own head. Because if I can't block my trauma will then dictate how I deal with others. So trauma blocking to me is definitely an internal piece. And it also is making sure that I place myself in spaces and I recognize those spaces for what they are. Because I can't always be in a space of peace, right? If I'm going to be a fighter, sometimes I'm going to be sent into battle. But when I'm on a battlefield, I have to recognize that that's a battlefield, and I have to act accordingly. So I think that trauma for me is that shield that when I am in a battlefield, I can't talk myself, that trauma, talking
Mhm.
myself into something or out of something. I can't do this, or I'm not good enough to do this. I can't let that get to me because there are people who have said that in the past, and now I don't even hear that. I used to hear that kind of stuff all the time, but I don't even hear it now. Um, but when we're on the battlefield, that trauma blocking, I have to recognize the space I'm in. And sometimes the spaces of peace. You just need to sit somewhere and be quiet. So
Mhm.
I think for me, that's what trauma blocking means. It means to recognize and discern those thoughts in your own subconscious and your shadow self that you need to work on. And also, when you're in spaces, when you're called to task, recognize the space that you're in and act accordingly.
Listen, I love it. I love it. Thank you for sharing your version of what does a trauma blocker mean to you. It's so important that I continue to collect trauma blockers along the way. So I told you all I was bringing you someone phenomenal today, and I can guarantee I delivered. Thank you, Doctor, or should I say, the Dr. Carrie Young McWilliams, for being here, sharing your
Thank you.
courage, your integrity, and unwavering commitment to educational justice. Um,
You.
Listeners, please go to her website, care2empower.org. And just learn more about all the things that she has going on. And I want you to also think about who's on your board. Dr. Carrie talked a lot about having a board. Who is on your board? That is your homework for tonight. Identify who is on your board, and then drop in the comments on the YouTube channel who's on your board with the hashtag Triumph Podcast. Thank you
All
so much
right.
for joining, Dr. Carrie. I'll see you soon. As we begin to kick off Triumph in the Trenches Volume 3, I will definitely
Yes.
be bringing you back because we got to get into what those new chapters are going to be about.
All right. Yeah, that's gonna be a treat, let me tell you.
It sure is.